And just like that, it was Monday again. Although, in my head, it already feels like Thursday. Now, that is what happens when you start your Mondays at 2 o'clock in the morning when the car comes to get you. Yeah. And I always love it when people say, "Oh, phoned you this morning, but you did not." No, I didn't answer because I don't get home till 4:30 in the morning. Woo. Hi, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. This is the Daily Show exclusive to Men's Radio Station. Another absolutely packed week. Speaking of packing heat, he is the big daddy on the raddy. I can't believe he actually wrote that this morning. You know him. You've learned to love him. Ladies and gentlemen, through international satellite, courtesy of Tracy Island and Thunderbird 2, it's Neil Long.
Yes, milady. Good afternoon.
Now, interestingly enough, that was voiced by the wonderful David Graham. David is a great friend of one of my best pals, Larry Viner, and David is now well in his 90s. Well in his 90s.
What, the guy that did Yes, milady?
Yes, and he's also the voice of Brains. He did all the other voices. He did the voices in Supercar, Firebell XL5. So he's done every voice from my childhood and your memory, what you read about in the history books. And he's an amazing guy. But when we have breakfast we have a sort of little birthday gang. I'm invited to some of them, not all of them, and it's a birthday breakfast, which we usually have in town. And David comes along, and he's as sharp as a tack, even well in his 90s. And of course, he's one of my heroes. But we try to get him when we have a race to see how long we can get him to say a particular word, which I can't even on our own radio station can't say.
Oh, it's a naughty one.
Just slightly, even for me, and I have to say,
I think I can guess.
I don't think you can. It's really bad, and the record at the moment stands at 8 seconds, which is really cool.
Oh, good work.
I know that. Robert Van Buren, hello to you. It's your mate, isn't it? Clock.
Hey, RVB.
RVB. Right. From southern Spain, we say hello to Michael Verby.
Hello, Michael Verby.
From southern Spain, we go to Turkey. Hello, all you well out here for an audition. Well done. Hope it goes well.
Good luck with that, Sen.
Yeah, because they knew he is the face of Silit Bang in Turkey, apparently. Yeah, I just made that up. It's not.
Can I?
And good afternoon, Fabsha. Thank you, Em. That's very sweet of you. It was the first thing that came to hand. And what do we got? Oh, and from Houston in Texas. Yeah. Bing. Julie Voice. So that's Texas. Listen to this. This is pretty good, right? Texas, Turkey, Spain, and New Malden. What do you want, for God's sake?
We're truly international. Just share.
International rescue. We are international rescue.
Pretty much. I was talking to a guy who.
Is there more to the story? Is that it?
That was it. Yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
Fantastic! Wow, that's a great thing. What a story! What an anecdote.
But seriously, hello, Kerry. I was talking to this guy, and he was talking about the parties I did over lockdown, and he listens to this as well. That's how he knows me. That's the backstory. And he follows us on here, and he was just saying some very complimentary things, and was being very open about mental health.
Oh,
and
good.
That's the important thing, and that's
good.
And that's what keeps me coming back week after week, twice a week. Just being really open, just showing.
Well, that and the 200,000 I pay you annually.
The importance of being open and the importance of men knowing it is okay to open up and talk about mental health.
It's so bloody important. It's so.
And also at the weekend, we were doing a gig for the army folks, and the stuff they've seen makes anything that I've been through pale into me.
Yeah, well, jeez.
But serving the country, they've been in the biz,
Bless
so to speak, 32 years, and they were opening up to me and some of my colleagues, and it just shows the importance, and we've got to break this, shatter this stigma that it's not okay for men to open up and talk about
this. This is why when Howard Jameson and I started Men's Radio Station a few years back, I wrote the strap line "Where Men Really Talk." because it's the not talking, it's the not communicating, it's feeling that you're on your own, that you're a burden, that you can't trouble anybody, that leads to often leads to suicide. And that's the major problem. And that is the key. Communication is the key. Just to start to talk to somebody, to alleviate that horrible, horrible pressure.
Because I've said this so many times, any mental condition feels so isolating. This is in men or women, and you literally feel that you're the only one, and it could not be further from the truth.
But
number one, other people are experiencing it too, and number two, there is a big support network.
But when you're in that space mentally, you cannot see a way out.
No,
and you can't see a way out. And more than that, you think, I'm a burden, and you think nobody will understand, and your mind kind of freezes, and you think, well, I can't think of anybody to talk. Anybody, just pick up the phone.
No,
don't text, pick up the phone. Pretend it's 1959 and we have telephones.
You have to kind of define what your mind is trying to tell you, because the mind by its nature has only got past data of past experiences, and if it's a new experience, then you will look back over things that maybe worked before. Some people do that. They have patterns that worked before for them, and then suddenly it works until it doesn't anymore. That's when a crisis can happen. Or they just have never had any experience, so they sort of blunder their way through, like I did a couple of years ago with no experience, and get burnt out and kind of ill on the way. When I don't know where to point the finger of blame. Is it the mental health authorities? Is it society in general? I don't know, and perhaps pointing the finger of blame isn't useful. But
it solves nothing. It solves nothing. But the important thing is, I got to say, by the way, I got to digress. Our guest, you are now in charge of all the catering and the digital green room, and you've done it fantastic.
Well, yes, I have been since day one, and I hope you like my spread.
She is eating her way through donuts. I've never seen anything bloody like it.
Good Lord.
Gee, God.
I've seen her comments in the chat. She looks like a cheeky.
How many did you buy? You bought 2 dozen. I think there's one left. Christ, take it easy. The answer to your question is it's been a societal thing, because grow up, grow a pair. Men, big boys don't cry. Blah blah blah. Stiff upper lip, and it has consequences.
And look where it's got us.
Well, there is a balance, and I always say this because I can't stand snowflakes. I have no time for them. I think they are an absolute plague and a pain in the arse. And I speak as someone who went to see the new Ricky Gervais. He was doing a tryout and trying out new material last week, and it was magnificent.
Oh,
he just says everything that I'm like. Well, he doesn't actually. I couldn't even. It was so extreme, which I loved it even more. So there is a balance between the wind's changed direction. I'm having a nervous breakdown. No, you're not. The wind's changed direction. Shut up. And proper depression and proper suicidal.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying we should all.
There's a difference.
I'm not saying we should all cry at soap operas or become hand wringing, whatever the word is.
Pathetic.
Hand wringing whingers.
Yeah, precisely. Dave Sleet up in Fife in Scotland. That's kind of a separate country, so we've got another country to add. Greetings, one and all. The isolation messages are the mind's gremlins. That was a terrible American car, by the way. Trying to keep you shut down.
But why would they do that? If we're going to,
Dave will answer that. But if we get into this, we're never going to get our guest.
But if we're going to,
a quick anecdote to tell, which I think you'll enjoy, all about men's radio. Here we are. This is good. Coming in from southern Spain. Would you care to read this? Neil Long.
I'm a member of a mainly expat veteran football team here. Many of us have had our problems, but we can talk quite openly with one another. Marvellous therapy. I agree.
Wow.
Some of the most healing moments I've had when I've been able to take the mask off and just say, you know what, I know I'm not supposed to feel like this. The book say I shouldn't feel like this. On paper, I shouldn't feel like this, but I feel like this. Because that's the thing. It gives you some space around it, and it gives you the first step of awareness.
Well, that's it. And there's no... One of the things is, I'm sorry, Ionica, promise we'll be with you. Promise. Have another coffee. Is this? There's no shame in it. You can't think, I'm feeling depressed. I failed. You haven't. You're feeling depressed, or you're feeling suicidal, or you're getting terrible negative thoughts. You haven't failed. I think people are being more open about mental health issues. Yep, people in the public eye opening up with their problems, and broadcasts like yours really have helped. Thank you, Kerry Stoneman. I much appreciate
Thank you, Kerry.
But again, and as a co-founder of a mental health radio television station, I shouldn't really be saying this, but I do, because I strongly. It's not a bandwagon for everybody who's got a book or a new album or a new TV show or some ghastly bloody load of crap in the cinema to plug and, attach. It's nonsense. That's not right. It's got to be real. It is not a catch-all.
There again, it is fair to say we do meet people from time to time with a book or something like that, or some teachings which are in complete alignment with what we're trying to do.
Oh, no. We've been very lucky. We've never had a guest on in the years that we've been doing the show, and the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests we've had conversations with. And I think only once I've thought, no, this is snake oil bullshit. I don't want this on exactly. The show. Otherwise, it's all very, very. Look,
can I tell you one more thing very, very quickly?
DJ Ken is there. Slim
Good
Man
afternoon,
Slim.
Mr. E, my producer. He was rocking the army gig on Saturday that we did. He's a very good DJ. I met a lady who wants to revolutionise the whole care system, because I had to put my mum into care, which was a horrible decision.
It's ghastly.
And the idea that she told me, those ideas that are just on the cusp of batshit crazy and genius.
And genius, yeah.
And I think this is one of those. It's genius.
Carry on. I've got to do something very quickly.
And a little bit crazy. And I would like to get her on the show one day. Her name's Esther, and I promised I'd ask Russ if we could book her in and get her on the show. She came up. She rang me and she said, "I want to blend the idea of a care home. I think what care homes typically like with a theme park." And I'm like, "I beg your pardon. Are you winding me up?" So they're going to get up in the morning, have breakfast, and go on a roller coaster. Is this it? And it's not that. And I did a little comedy gig on Sunday where I met her and some other comedians, and there's going to be a big awareness raise with it. So I'd love, if that's all right, to get her on the show.
Yeah.
And my daughter got engaged, Russ.
To a Mountie or a lumberjack, because she's in Canada.
No, she's not in Canada anymore.
She's back from Canada.
She's back from Canada, yeah.
I thought she was living permanently in Canada.
No,
congratulations!
It was just a
How
assignment.
Lovely.
And she got engaged. So all the love.
Do we like this new Lothario?
He's a great guy.
Okay,
talk about mental health. I mean, of all the dickheads she could have dated, and there are many, she didn't. And as a dad,
well, thank God, because she's not living in America; she's living in Canada. Got more chance of not marrying an arsehole. Right, ladies and gentlemen.
He's not Canadian.
What is he then? Is he English?
Italian.
Even better, because the food's going to be great. The kids are going to be good looking. The kids will be multilingual. They'll all be driving Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, and eating pasta. What the hell more do you want? And here she is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ionica Adriana.
Hello.
Hey, Sleeping Beauty. Who was in it? Who was in that poster?
I was with Carl Johns. I'm here.
Yeah. All right, I can't see. Go on. Who's wearing the white dress? Looks like Katie. Please tell me it's not Katie Price. Oh,
no, Melinda Messenger.
I did panto with Melinda. She's gorgeous and charming and lovely. She's so sweet. We did
one of the most lovely human beings I've ever met.
She's nothing.
So
like
I hear she's absolutely lovely.
She's charming. Yeah. The first day of rehearsals, right? She came in. I thought, I bet she's probably up herself a bit. And she said, "Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm making tea. Can I get one for everybody?" And she was just an absolute delight to work with. Can I tell you a very quick, silly story, Ionica? Then we hear all your stories, but people like silly anecdotes. So the cast list, it was Cinderella, and it's Melinda Messenger, it's Bobby Davro. So the cast goes Bobby Davro, Melinda Messenger. For some reason, me, because I was a cheap date, because I had we had 4 million listeners every day, so it was cheap date. And the great Danny LaRue. All the posters go everywhere. It's a huge theatre. It's the Peacock Theatre, it's New Victoria Theatre, Woking. It's a big run.
Oh, nice.
And Danny LaRue turns up and he sees the posters outside. Wow, I see, and I don't like the billing. And if that billing doesn't come down after the theatre, I'm off. And they had to take everything down and put up these horrible things that looked like some sort of school fete if the school had threepence in their budget, and put his billing up. Never forgotten it.
Is it true that he used to turn up with a dog?
And, oh God, Jonty.
And apparently, if people complained about the dog, he'd go, "No dog, no Danny." Is that true?
No, the actual show, the true story. I'm sorry, Ionica, but there you go. You're here. You've got the lovely post. It's your fault. This is your fault, Ionica.
Wow.
The true story is they'd done. This was at Southampton. I think the Mermaid Theatre Southampton, which is the huge panto venue as well. And the previous production had been Annie, which of course, features a little dog, and Health and Safety, and the council had said no dog. So the dog wasn't allowed in the performance, right? Danny arrived for first day of rehearsals, and he's got Jonty, and I love dogs. I'm obsessed with dogs. My dog's just there, 2 feet to my left. This was the ugliest, most moth-eaten, raddled. I mean, it was just the most unattractive dog I'd ever seen. Jonty, and he's got Jonty under his arm, and they said, oh, and the guy at the stage door, this is absolutely true, goes, Mr. LaRue, I'm so sorry, but we do have a ruling. I'm afraid no pets and certainly no dogs. And he just looks at this guy, goes, no Jonty, no Danny, no show. And he just walked straight into the dressing room. That was the end of the conversation.
Brilliant.
Welcome to the show, Ionica.
Welcome, Ionica. Tell us
what
all
a lovely
about
name. I've never met an Ionica before.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
We used to have an Ionic cinema.
Did you?
In Golders Green. That's as near as I got.
I've heard of Ionic trace minerals, but that's probably not the same thing.
And I've heard of somebody called Trace. Right,
Trace.
Come on. Right, Trace. Come on, Ionica. Tell us, because you've got a big story that we want to hear about.
Yes, please share.
Yeah, I will tell you the story, but I just want to kind of backtrack on the mental health, because I've just hosted at Carfest. I did the North and the South, and I hosted on the Sparfest stage. And I tell you one man, I don't know if you'll know him, I don't know if you've had him on your show, but Tom Chapman is just one of the most gorgeous human beings, and he does Barbour talk, and it's all about getting people to talk in the chair and teaching people how to deal with, people that are cutting their hair, the barbers, to deal with the conversations as well. And the whole weekend was just absolutely incredible. And it was about breaking down the stigma of
Super.
Everybody talking, but especially men. And we had loads of people on. We had people like Bryony Gordon talking about OCD and stuff like that. It wasn't just men talking about mental health, but it was a huge, huge topic over the weekend. And it was amazing. And it was so lovely to talk and be open and have a safe space. I mean, at the North, we had Eddie Izzard, and she was talking about everything that she's gone through.
You have to call Eddie Izzard she now.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But again, just showing how times have changed and what people are now accepting and being like, everyone's feeling that they're in a safer space to talk, and I think it's brilliant.
Good, and the more safe spaces, the better. Of which
I'm not keen. And I've deliberately, everything that I've written about the station, I don't like safe space because it's all too Californian and hugging a tree and sitting in a dark room because you've chipped a nail. I prefer non-judgmental space, and I think it's
I like that. Yeah,
safe space is just. But it's real American.
It's kind of a nice stereotype that's been around for a while, the barber's shop chair, because everyone tells their barber or hairdresser everything, don't they?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not surprising it's evolved out of that. It's a very kind of natural pathway, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I love
But how do you get to better mental health when someone's just saying, see the game on Saturday, sir? That's not going to help. Going anywhere nice for your holidays?
Though, don't you?
You're going anywhere nice for your holidays, mate? I'm kidding. Because every woman will tell you their hairdresser is both their therapist, psychotherapist, marriage counsellor. It's an extraordinary.
Absolutely.
I've no idea why sitting in a chair to get your hair done and suddenly it unlocks.
Do you know what it is? I think it's because you're letting someone touch something that is, well, obviously very close to you, but you don't often let people that you don't know touch your face or your head, and it's a very intimate place to touch, and I think that that's maybe why it's
And intimacy can also
That's
be
a
written.
good point, Ionica. That's really.
I love that. I love that
That's
theory,
clever.
and I agree.
Clever.
Intimacy can also be written into me, you see. So there you go.
Do
Like
that one
it.
slowly again, especially for all our 70,000 listeners who are listening, but they can't see us. Thank God. Well, apart from Ionica, which they're missing a delight, if I may be so very bold.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. On Deluxe Radio, by the head Grand Fromage David Wimble, who was in London for his partner's birthday. Sarah White, belated happy birthday to you, Sarah. 70,000 people listening right now, all along the south coast of the UK. South.
Well, hopefully you've got some Northerners listening.
Well,
indeed.
That's why we have subtitles.
Funny.
Thank you.
I can only apologise, Arnie.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us your story before we call you off?
I want to hear what Ionica has to say, not you slagging me.
Okay. So, yes, I do have a Northern accent, but I was born in Romania, and I was put into an orphanage quite soon after I was born, and then I was adopted when I was 2.5 to the UK. And then when I was, I think, about 11, my sister's family got in touch. She got adopted to America. I can't remember if we knew, or we kind of knew of her, but we didn't know of her really. She got in touch, and then we met, and I flew to LA when I was 20. And then in lockdown, my mum found my birth mum on Facebook. And then a few months ago, I did a documentary with Just Radio, and it was on Radio 4, and it was where I got to revisit the orphanage and see the change in the system. And then after that, I went to Sicily. I flew out and surprised my birth mum on her 50th birthday. And that wasn't planned, and that wasn't to do with the documentary, even though it did end up crossing over. That kind of just happened, and I was like, yeah, let's go.
So when you went to Sicily, did you discover that your real family were one of the biggest crime families in that area? Fantastic. And now you control all the import of olive oil. Fabulous.
I do.
You are a top guest. Now,
so what was her
Kerry
reaction?
Stoneman, hang on, because Kerry Stoneman is agreeing with our guest. I was a barber, and think it's also the fact you're talking, looking in the mirror. So, bloody hell, yes. Kerry, that's a belter.
Yeah, that is right. That's so true, Kerry.
That is really, really clever. I'll read it again. Everyone can see it, but they can't on Deluxe. I was a barber. I think it's the fact you're talking, looking in the mirror, so it's not as intrusive as face to face. Jeez, Kerry, that's bloody clever.
We get some pretty smart.
So, Ionica, let's wind back. There's so much to unpack here, but we're all right. We got 50 minutes.
Okay.
One, it's hilarious. Yes, I have a Northern accent, but I was born in I thought you were going to say it like Macclesfield. No, I was born in Romania. Yeah, obviously, Romania twinned with Stoke.
Yeah.
So, Stoke on track. Were you? No. We have a rule here. Well, it's my rule, to be honest with you. It's not it's not the BBC. You don't want to answer something. You just say, I don't want to go there, and that's absolutely fine. We're not here to. We're not here to interrogate. We're here to have a chat.
Ace.
So, was it because your mother couldn't deal with you and your sister? Were there circumstances, or what? How did you end up in the orphanage to start with?
Well, first of all, me and my sister actually never met until I was 20. So, because of the age gap, so that's why we didn't meet. I think life circumstances were not kind. I think being in a communist regime and having a young pregnancy was not easy. Adoption in our family has always been very transparent and open, and absolutely a celebration. And it's like you've got a second chance at life, and what is not ace about that? And it's always been talked about, and it's always been celebrated, and it's always anything that I've ever wanted to know. Obviously, probably was time sensitive when I was much younger, but I've always known kind of my story and as much history as I could really understand through my life in terms of what Romania was like at that time. And Yeah, I mean, when you do a documentary, please do not feel that you can't ask out, because when you do a documentary, there isn't anything that you are not asked. So I probably have been asked every question under the
Oh
sun.
no! But
So if anyone wants
the
to ask,
difference is with other radio stations, they'll say, "Well," and they're like a terrier with a bone, and we're not like that
yeah,
because we are
I've got
sensitive to
so
the
many
wishes, and
questions I want to ask.
especially because a lot of our guests are dealing with really
for sure,
very sensitive, very difficult issues.
yeah,
Especially if they're not professionals. You know, you're a professional, but other people aren't,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we don't want them getting into a tiz and getting upset. It's the absolute last thing we want to do, because it's about the guests. It's not about us. That's
Oh,
the difference. We're not BBC Newsnight out to try and make a name for ourselves, because that's not the ethos of the whole of men's radio, women's radio. So you got adopted at 2.
two and a half.
Do you have any memories of the orphanage?
No, and I think
Thank
it's
goodness.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes just as a human being, you'd be like, oh, I wish I could remember that, but actually, it's probably the biggest blessing that I don't know. But that it was interesting going back to the going back to the orphanage, because everyone, it everyone would think that, oh, it's going to reignite something or whatever, but your brain has a very funny way of closing off things, and when you're pre-verbal as well, it's very different how our memories work and learn memories as well. Because I have photos of me in the orphanage with a shaved head. So going back in, I recognise the space, but not because I remembered it, but only really through photos. And in my mind, in the blueprint, because our brains are very clever, I will remember it, but actually not in my conscious brain now. Um, but it was just incredible, and I'm so lucky to be able to have that opportunity, because it really is something that not a lot of people get to do. And I got to do it with my godmother as well, and she was translating, and that really couldn't have been a better person to do it with, because she was there. She was there through the adoption. She helped us with the adoption. She was the translator. She went through the courts with us. So for her, it was kind of like it was full circle. It was just mega.
That's wonderful. What I mean, you say it's been framed in a particular way within your brain, and that's fascinating. But given the bits you do remember, what are the
Yeah.
changes now? Because I hear the word orphanages, and it
Mhm.
just conjures up terrible images. Is it very, very different now? Has it all evolved, or
Massively different, yeah. So I interviewed a guy called Dragos Dimitriou, and he was in the orphanage for all of his life. And we're a similar age. He's a little bit older than me, but he's an actor. So they kind of, I think it was more to do with the sliding doors and how we're both in the same profession, both from the same life, but then two people have had two different very life experiences. And he's lived through it. So for me, the photos are very different. I mean, the building is still there. It's not in use. They have a system now where all of the babies have their own room. They have, it's not really assisted living, but when they get to a certain age, they can move into flats. So they have like between 5 and 8, I think, in the blocks of housing, and they've got teachers, and it's on another level of change. And if you listen to the documentary, it's called Ceausescu's Children. If you listen to it and you hear him speak, he was so happy to move into that, and he had his 5 friends. Before, he was in an orphanage of 200 kids.
wow?
I remember the images they put out of the original stuff. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And you're talking to someone who can't look at you can't look at Battersea Dogs Home without thinking, yeah, I'm going to take all those dogs
Oh
home
no,
with me.
yeah.
So when it comes to babies and little toddlers, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it seemed inhuman. As a Westerner, as a bloke born and bred in London, it just seems inhuman what
I
was
think
going on there.
as one thing that is really important that I always really want to get across is that it was not through cruelty or lack of care. It's just because the people in the orphanages just didn't have the means or the facilities to be able to care. And Livia was a prime example of that. She came into the orphanage every single week to check that I was okay and that I hadn't been taken and that the adoption was still going to be able to go ahead. She taught me to walk, because often babies aren't even picked up at all They can't even feed them because I don't know if you've seen the documentary with Challenge Ionica Rice was called Challenge Ionica, and there was 600 children in this one orphanage and 5 care workers or something like that, and no one can possibly look after that many children. And again, it's not through.
And yet touch is so important in those really
primitive
formative
years,
isn't it?
Formative, yeah.
Isn't it interesting? Because it goes right to the heart of nature or nurture, which we could talk about for the next week without a break, apart from going to the loo. It's so interesting, isn't it? You know, do you grow up because of what's in your DNA, even if you didn't know your parents? Or is it the way you were brought up and it's immaterial who your actual blood relatives were?
When you meet somebody that you've never met before and you've got the same face and you have the same mannerisms and the same sense of humor, you're like, this is not coincidence. This is in my DNA. And then when I met my other sister and I met my birth mum, there's just some traits in you that, you know, when sometimes you're like, oh, I just can't explain that trait in me. Like if you read a star sign or something like that, and you're like, nope, that's definitely me. And then, but actually, never having it and then meeting it, I'm like, oh no, nature, nurture. There's a lot to answer for that.
That's extraordinary. When you met your actual birth, when you met your birth mother, what was that? What was that? That must have been enormously emotional. How did you handle that?
So I used to present on BBC York. I used to do the evening show, and my friend was a presenter on BBC Essex doing the evening show. And she said, "Do you want to come on and do a talk about adoption?" I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Not necessarily about Romanian adoption, but just about adoption in general. Yeah, that's fine." Anyway, get off. It's an evening show, so I think we finish at 9 or something like that. Anyway, Mum goes, "Oh, have you tried finding your birth mum recently?" Because she didn't listen to the interview, and I said, "Oh no." Because you just get a list of names, and every time that we've ever sent a message, me and Mum have always done it together, and pretty much the message says, Ionica's looking for a birth mum. You don't have to answer this message. We understand that circumstances might not be okay to answer this, but we are looking for it. Is this you? And then we had a number and her name written on a piece of paper that my mum and dad have kept, because we've got a bit of a scrapbook kind of thing. Anyway, it must have been a bit later actually. Anyway, Mum comes running up the stairs. I'm in bed. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why is she running? That's not good. Anyway, Mum comes running up the stairs. Mum's crying. She turns the phone around. This woman's crying on the phone. I'm like, you know when you just like the penny drops slightly slow and you're like, this can't be the situation that's happening right now, because it was so quick after we sent the message. And we've been looking for years, like doing documentaries and stuff like that. They've never been able to find her. I literally stood like a goon waving at this camera. I was like, that's all I did. I didn't know what to do.
Well, what else are you going to do? What are you going to do? Go, oh, hi, good to meet you. I'm so sorry. I was having a sleep. Let's catch up next week, shall we?
Well, yeah.
Groucho Club, 2 o'clock? I mean, what are you going to do? Of course you're going to wave. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then Mum gave me a hug, and then we sat and we talked on this split screen. My birth mum doesn't speak a word of English, so my other sister, who I also hadn't met, not the one in America, the one that lives in Sicily, we started sending messages through WhatsApp to each other so that we could translate to my birth mum on 4 screens. It was like, it was a long conversation, but it was incredible. And then through lockdown, it was the best time to happen because no one was forced to travel. No one felt pressured to see each other quickly. We also could have time for conversations. Like anyone that is a jobbing actor will know that you have to literally just jump on a train, go to a casting, whatever, or go to your waitressing shift, do some whatever it is. But actually, we could have a serious conversation and go, actually, no, I can take time and understand and process what it is that you're telling me. And it was just meant to be, absolutely meant to be. And there was never any kind of like, we've had conversations about how we're going to meet, when we're going to do it with all of our family, like my sister with all of her siblings in America, and my family here, and the family in Sicily, is how we're going to do it. But it never really was it was a bit of a, I don't know, didn't feel real it was ever going to happen. And then after I'd done the documentary, my birth mum was in the documentary, And it was the first time that I'd ever got to speak to her with a translator, not a translation app. And that made a huge, huge difference because everything is imminent and the emotions are imminent and she can feel your heart and you can feel her heart and soul. So when I was saying that I don't judge you and I don't hate you and that I only have admiration for your strength, she could see it coming out of me like that. That is, it's genuine and that this is actually my core belief and it isn't me just saying it to appease the situation.
No.
And then after I'd finished, I was just like, I just felt, I don't know, a bit braver or whatever it was. And then I sent her a message because every birthday in lockdown, I've sent her a video, like a bit of a Love Actually kind of like flip chart in English, Romanian and Italian, because my sister speaks Italian, she speaks Romanian as well. And then I speak Yorkshire. So, I mean, Google's having a hard time translating.
Right.
So we've got this flip chart going. Anyway, so I filmed it in England. And I asked her, I was like, oh, what are you doing next week? And she goes, like, because it was her 50th birthday. I said, what are you doing for your 50th birthday? And she goes, oh, nothing. I'm just going to spend the day with your sister. I was like, are you going to do anything special? You're going to be 50. It's a big birthday. And she's like, no, just going to spend the day with your sister. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. And I was like, can I do this? I was like, right, I'm going to go and speak to my mum and dad, ask them. They thought it was a great idea. Asked my sister in America. She was on board. And then I asked a few friends that didn't know each other what they thought of the situation that aren't yes people and know my whole history. And they all gave me the same answer. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going 5 days. So I'll go downstairs in the morning, go to mum and dad. Oh, I'm going to go. What do you think about me going to see my birth mum for a birthday, for a 50th birthday? Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah. When is it? In about 6 days' time. And booking it over Easter weekend. Did
your mum, the lady you call mum, not your birth mum, but your mum, who clearly has done, sounds patronising, it's not meant to be, she's done a fantastic job and you're obviously very, very bonded with her. Did she feel any sense of betrayal?
I was going
to ask that. A reason why I'm asking that.
For me wanting to go, no, not at all.
No.
Gosh, my mum and dad have only ever spoken beautifully about my birth mum, and she was 18 when they met her because she had to go to the court. I mean, you're literally being given someone else's child. Like that in itself is a huge moment that these people are never going to forget. And my mum and dad said actually in the documentary that they wanted to adopt her. She was so young, and.
How long was your birth mum when you arrived? It sounds like she was about 16. Maybe?
Yeah, I think she was 16 when she had me. 16, 17.
Okay.
And yeah, no, not at all. And we've had many a conversation over the year. Like I was stood in the kitchen once and my dad went, oh, you just look like your birth mum then. Because I was 16 at the time, so they knew her when she was 16. No, gosh, no betrayal at all. If anything,
I mean, they just sound like wonderful people, and to be able to be secure enough in themselves to be that open.
That's the word. I couldn't think of the damn word.
And that's the key, isn't it?
I'll tell you why I say it. Ionica, and I don't share this, and I've never written about it. Is that my late wife, to my amazement, turned out she was adopted.
Okay.
And the people who brought her up from 6 weeks old were not the greatest in the world.
Okay.
Not the greatest. And I couldn't understand. There was nothing about her that was like them. But they'd they'd raised her since she was 6 weeks old under circumstances which I'm not prepared to go into because it's nobody else's business. And she wanted to just know a bit about her real parents and had spent years using the council to try and track them down, just to have a picture, to have a photograph. Didn't know what they looked like, and it affected her very, very heavily. That's why I asked the question that I asked. And she'd been doing this for years, and every time she needed a meeting with the local council, they would wait. You'd wait months, and then she'd get there, and they go, "Oh, so sorry. I've never forgotten this. We haven't got a meeting room today, so we've had to cancel." You can't mess around with people's emotions like that because you haven't got a bloody room. It's just shit. Anyhow, one night I'd had enough of this, and I just got hold of a private detective, as is my wont. And within 24 hours, after years of her getting nowhere, within 24 hours,
not
only had I tracked them down, I knew exactly where they were and who they were, etc. And it was a whole process, which I'm not going to take into because that'll pull focus from you. We tracked them down. Eventually, we met them, which was weird, and it was a very, very strange dynamic. But the mother was exactly like my late wife. Then I saw the whole thing: the stature, the cheekbones, the style, everything, and I thought, that's the DNA.
That's where it is.
That's where we go. And then they ended up. At first, it was a horrible relationship, and then ended up very nice. The father was horrible, and he died, and no one missed him. But the mother was terrific, very nice woman.
I think
was very fond of her.
This question is always asked to me is whether you think you should tell people they're adopted or not, and I think it's absolutely circumstantial, and that you can't judge someone's situation because people might be doing it out of protectiveness or whatever.
There is that factor. There are certain good reasons.
I mean, if you're coming from a domestic violence scene or drugs, it's never black and white, and you can't judge. It's not a blanket rule that you should. I have been very lucky in that my adoption has been very open and transparent the entirety. I was adopted with another girl. My brothers are IVF. Everything is very open. I think from my own personal experience and knowledge and talking to people is that the betrayal and everything else like that comes with it is through lack of not knowing, and people having to search for their history and stuff like that in a negative way. Again, I'm not judging anyone that doesn't tell people that, because again, you don't know. And I've met many of people that haven't been told and found out later.
And
I
also,
I don't know how you do it.
Also, Ionica, sometimes the parents who've adopted the kids, are delusional, and they create a whole world which actually isn't true. That they gave
the
birth
people
to
that have adopted the child, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, human beings.
Well, trust me, I know. In this one, I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, human beings will be human beings.
Like, what the bloody hell are you? You didn't give birth to this person. Well,
do you know what? Generationally, there's a lot of shame as well in adoption, especially in certain countries, and that is a huge factor into it as well.
Why is that?
I think religion plays a part into it. I've watched documentaries on the Magdalene care homes and the film with Judi Dench, where she goes, watch the film. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's about being born outside of wedlock. Essentially, that's what it goes down to.
Oh yeah, that religious dictates. Yeah.
I always find that word such a weird word, isn't it? Wedlock. It sounds. First of all, it sounds like sort of a gothic horror character.
Yeah.
And secondly, it just sounds like imprisonment. You're in wedlock. Oh shit! How long have I got? Well,
Hell's bells.
15 years. You know, it sounds awful. It's a horrible word.
So yeah, I think that maybe plays a part into it. But in my circumstance, and I've had a lot of people approach me. I've always spoken very openly about adoption, but since doing the documentary and since the Daily Mail came out, I was inundated with people's messages and stories, some good, some bad, and some almost parallel. Weirdly,
But it goes to the heart. I mean, boy, there's so many different directions that this chit chat can take. But it goes to the heart of what is a parent. What is a parent? It's someone who cares, who loves, who's looked after, who's been there. They are as much a parent as if, giving birth is just an act of nature. It doesn't make you a good, bad, or indifferent parent. It's just the fact you gave birth to somebody. Yeah. Being a parent is a very, very big deal. It's a huge responsibility.
For sure.
Anyone can. Well, I say anybody,
I would be the worst parent. I would literally be like, oh, did I leave something somewhere? I am not ready for kids. I am not ready for kids.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't know.
You worked with Melinda Messenger, for God's sake. You were in Sleeping Beauty.
That woman, she is very maternal. Melinda is the most gorgeous human being.
People didn't get that. People just thought, oh, sexy with big whammers. It wasn't like that at all. She was the most down to earth.
And she's a psychotherapist.
Just focus. She knew. The great thing about some people is they just know who they are.
She's
they
so
know
grounded
that the
and so lovely.
hype and all the bullshit, it's just
Yeah.
an act, and they leave it, they park it until they need to switch it on.
And she's had
then they can
such a
switch it off.
varied career as well. I mean, I think she only modelled for 4 years, didn't she, or something like that?
It wasn't long. She was from, where the hell was she? Some town not known for being fabulous, and she appeared in an ad for, I think, Central Heating of all things, and that took her career. She was a Central
Yes,
Heating.
yeah, it was
wasn't-
Windows or something, wasn't it?
It was Windows, or
Yeah.
it was something that had nothing
Yeah.
to do with wearing suspenders, heels, and a bra. Nothing whatsoever. I mean, it was not an advert for an underwear company. It was double glazing or some crap. Kimmy Lashmar, exactly. Some people make terrible parents. That's absolutely true. Some people just cannot be parents. They don't have the skill.
Yeah.
And this is lovely. Would you like to read this out? This is your mate.
Kerry says, my adoptive parents were very open about me being adopted and said that I was special as they had picked me. That's lovely.
That's nice.
I was lucky that my birth mother had an unusual surname, so she was easy to find.
Yeah, that's good.
Can't be many Voldemorts in the phone book. Anyway, there you go. It's interesting. So, what are you up to these days?
These days.
Yes. Where can we see you? What's your next performance?
What are you doing?
So I have just finished Carfest. That was last weekend.
So Carfest. That's not Chris Evans' thing, is it? What is Chris Evans' thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was hosting that. I hosted the North and the South, so I did the Sparfest stage, and it was just mega. It was absolutely ace. Hopefully, be doing Panto as well. Obviously,
come on, all together now. Oh no, come on! Everyone's playing along at home. You know it. You can't do a line like that.
I'm not going to lower myself to that humour.
Oh, come on! Who are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing this year? Do you know yet?
I don't know. No, I'm just in.
You're in negotiations. With
Negotiations.
The agents. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And then just some TV stuff as well this month. More presenting work, and the presenting has really been a natural progression. Weirdly, never ever set out to be a presenter at all. Thanks, Liz. Oh yes, we are. So the presenting has been really a big focus this year, and especially doing the documentary. I'd never really presented in that style. I had my own show on Radio York. That was the Arts and Culture show. Then I did Countryfile Live. That was a live event. And now I do really big live events. So I host at Move It. Hopefully I'll be doing that again next year, which is a dance convention at Excel. And do you know what? Sometimes you're just like, what is going on? I've gone to that dance convention every year for the last 13 years. And now I'm presenting at it. I was like, I'm just a big fan.
Well, I'd be the same at Carfest because I'm a complete devout, always have been petrol head. So it's something I've always actually wanted to kind of go to, but I don't really like crowds that much.
I mean, it's quite busy, yeah. So, but if you go to the Sparfest stage and the Starfest, they're all very individual, so you don't have to be in the big main stage area if you don't want.
Oh, that's the thing. It's an interesting thing that he did. Not as interesting as interesting as co-founding radio stations with me and Howard, but it's interesting nonetheless. That's it. So you're packed. Yeah. So you are. It's interesting. They're a shining example of what can be achieved through love and care. Really.
Absolutely.
It's so.
And everything else comes later. Education comes later, and all of that kind of stuff comes later. But really, all you ever need is love. And
write that down. That could be a song.
Somebody should write a song. Yeah.
No, it would never work. No, you're right. It would never work. It's a terrible idea. Rubbish idea.
But you really do. That's all you ever need is.
And you are a shining example, and you're so vibrant and bubbly and alive and a joy to talk to. If I may.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
She lives nowhere near
find this
New
documentary if they want to listen, because it sounds fascinating. So it was Radio 4.
Yes, it was Radio 4. It's called Ceausescu's Children. If you put my name into Google, you can find it that way, or if you put into the iPlayer. Paul Winstone. Paul is just commented, and he is just the most gorgeous human being. He's a photographer, and he's an incredible photographer. And I'm going to be shooting with him hopefully in the next week or so. He's a fashion photographer and does catwalks. So hi, Paul. Sorry about that tangent.
I wondered why he had such a very nice professional Facebook.
He's got a very nice photo, yes. Yeah, it's called Ceausescu's Children. It's on the iPlayer. It's on BBC Sounds. It's available. And as well, I just want to say, I met Louise Minchin. So my show got picked for Pick of the Week or the week after that.
Fantastic.
And then it was on Women's Hour as well, which I was just like, oh, wow. Because obviously you do a show and you know it's going to go on the radio, but you think it's going to go on the radio. You don't think it's going to have other stuff happen, and it did. And I met Louise Minchin at Carfest, and there was a huge amount of like incredible people there. But I was like, I can't even play this chord. I was like, I'm so excited to meet you. And she was
Isn't
like,
it weird?
So
Isn't it weird
well.
when you meet people that matter to you? Neil and I, over
Yeah.
our careers, have met like everybody, most people. I don't care. Like people say, oh, it's so and so. He plays for some, football.
Yeah,
team.
just be a nice
Monkeys. I
human
don't
being.
follow foot. It's absolutely meaningless to me.
Yeah.
Or well, look at so and so. It's so and so from that soap. I said, well, I've never watched it. I don't know what the hell. It's just somebody. But if it's somebody that really resonates with me, I'm like freaking out. Like,
and she did this like little intro
out
about me on stage and about why she went into journalism and how you don't often get to meet the people that you've seen over like spoken about in your career. And it just like, I just love that woman. And we spoke loads, and I was like, because I stayed with someone that she knew, so I got her to text her the next day saying, Ionica's really excited to meet you. I was not gonna lie. And she gave me the biggest hug.
It's nice. I think if you I always think, I mean, I'm jaded, obviously, but it's lovely to have that enthusiasm. I still do. And I'd be somewhere like going, oh, it's so and so, and if it really resonates and that means so much, it's lovely. It's a great thing. But it's
and we're all there doing the same job. Like Louise is presenting, I was presenting, and I was presenting because I was emceeing and presenting. So I was presenting the presenters coming on stage at some point. So I was presenting her coming on. So I was like, play it cool.
Just relax. Don't. If I was walking down the street, down the street and I saw like Paul Stanley or Geddy Lee or Alex Lifeson, I'd like,
jump on the red.
I'd be like totally, utterly freaking. The most I do, I have a stock way of doing it. I walk up and I say, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to say how much I admire your body of work and thank you for the wonderful entertainment. And then I leave. That's it. That's the most.
That's a very cool way to do it.
That's the most that I will do. And
what about you? How do you do it?
Oh, he attacks. He throws himself at them.
Oh, I just play it very. No, I normally say, just want to get this out of the way. I'm a big fan, and then I just kind of leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, just want to get this out of the way. I'm a massive fan, and that's kind of it. So kind of a shorter, more succinct version of what Russ does.
Yeah.
But inside, I'm doing a Wayne's World. We're not worthy.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
But I play it very cool, very poker face on the outside.
Yeah. I like that.
Here's the Lady Gaga of New Malden. That poker face is unbelievable. Liz Saw says, sorry. That happened to me at the weekend. I was in a pub with work friends. One of the mutual friend of a friend. Upon being introduced, we gushed, ooh, everyone knows who you are or of you, and you're so cool. I'm like, smile a bit nervously, try not to run away. Yes, precisely. Precisely. I don't like to have conversations at 4:00 in the morning, but I got picked up from Talk TV at 4 every Monday, and I get picked up and I go, and you have to ask which is your car because there's a line of cars. You don't want to get in the wrong car and end up at somebody else's house.
No, that's not a good idea.
And I said, Russ Kane, you say through the garden wall, Jesus Christ, through the window of the car, right? And he went, oh, like the flying eye. I thought, oh no, not 4:00 in the morning, no, please. But I thought, but he was all excited, and I
met someone yesterday that remembers you well, Russ. You're still famous, man. You still got it.
Right. But it's sweet when people. I never understand why people are rude and dismissive about the stuff that they did years ago, like it's some. Oh, well, that was. I mean, I've seen it. Well, that was years ago, and it's like that's. So
I think there's a very
rude.
fine line. There's a very fine line, isn't there, of wanting people to appreciate the work that you're doing now instead of something that you did 30 years ago. But you've got to appreciate that that's why you are so have the career that you do is because of the job
Well,
30 years ago.
indeed.
but don't
Fine
you think
line.
it's very flattering with everything that goes on in other people's lives, and they all have busy lives, that they could remember? So when somebody says, "Oh, I remember you," not me, in that soap opera, and then they go off to be a huge international Hollywood star, it takes no more time to say, "Oh, thank you, they were fun days," rather than, "Well, that was years ago."
I
It
remember
makes
I
that
met
person feel small.
I remember I met James Cosmo, who's a great actor, at a gig I was doing, and I was kind of fanboying a bit because I said, "Oh my God, that was the most amazing film while I was growing up." And he went, "Oh, Braveheart." I went, "No, Trainspotting." And he was totally cool about it because he's a lovely guy, very professional. But Braveheart's a great film, but Renton's dad in Trainspotting, that's always going to do it for me.
Yeah.
Ionica, thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you, which I know they undoubtedly will,
Yes,
you've
please.
Been you've been a stellar guest, if I may say.
Thank you. My social media is at Ionica, IONICA_official, and then it'll come up. That's the same on all platforms.
That's a bit grown up. That's a bit cool. Damn.
Not really. But
Damn.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You got an underscore, which makes you classy.
Does it? I'll take that. I've never heard that.
You never heard it because I just made it up. That's why you never heard it before.
I'm taking that.
Thank you so much. Good luck with everything you do. And if you ever want to come back, if you ever have anything you want to talk about, where we are. No, seriously,
and get Tom Chapman on the show. Please get Tom Chapman.
Well, can you? You seem to know Tom Chapman.
Yes, I do.
Pass on to me. You have my personal email.
Yes.
If you could pass on his details.
He is a joy, and he would be absolutely everything that your show is about. And
bless you. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I agree. Have a
wonderful day.
Stellar guest. It's been lovely to meet you, Ionica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How
cool. Do you want to hear my weird story? Do you want to hear my really, really weird? Well, a fabulous guest she was. I'm so full of energy, positivity.
I know. What a beautiful soul.
Great human being. We've never met before, but she was really, really nice. And even her emails, I knew she'd be a great guest. The emails were so charming and so bubbly and everything. So yesterday I had lunch with my son, right? Twin two. I'll do it quick. It's just a weird anecdote, right? So I had lunch, and he just got back from a holiday. I hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks, and we went for a Chinese in Chinatown, as you do.
Wonderful.
And he said, "Hey, I got you an early birthday present, Dad." And I went, "Oh, that's right." And he said, "I got you some cigars," because he knew that I didn't have any cigars left. And I said, "Oh my God, I love them! Fantastic, Romeo and Juliet, my favorite. It's fabulous." So he went off. He had a million things to do. So I went to Bar Italia and had an espresso. And I'm sitting there. And I thought, I'll phone my mate Colin, see if he's free. So I phoned up Colin. Yeah, he said, "I'll meet you at the Groucho Club. Come up onto the terrace and we can have a smile." I said, "I've got some cigars at last," because he'd run out as well. So we're sitting there, and there's a table next to it. It's very, very small terrace. It's really, really tiny. And so the tables are very close together. And you know what I'm like. I'm chatting. There's a lady sitting next to me, like a foot away. And I say, "Oh, blah, 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 blah," yakking away. "And what do you do?" And she says, "Well, I'm a psychologist." And I went, "This isn't a joke. This is exactly what happened to me yesterday." So I said, "Oh my gosh, you should come on my show. I have a thing called The Daily Show on Maze Radio, and we just focus on mental health and well-being." And she says, "God, that's I know someone who's got something similar, like a station and a show like that." And I said, "Oh, really? Who's that?" He went, "Oh, his name's Russ Kane." And I looked at this woman and said, "I am Russ Kane." It's just the most bizarre.
That's showbiz.
It wasn't that weird. It was even more embarrassing. We'd not recognized each other, and because we've had thousands of guests, and she'd actually been on the show years ago. Very nice woman called Jo Hemmings, who is she's a TV psychologist, and she does the vetting for a lot of those reality shows to make sure the people are mentally strong enough to. Well, I would make that suspect that you want to be in a reality show in the first place. Isn't that the weirdest thing? We both sat there roaring with laughter.
That's brilliant. I once was having a coffee and I left the place, and someone was chasing me down the road. Excuse me. Are you Neil Long?" And I went, Yeah, I think it is a real showbiz moment. Might remember me from Capital or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, how do you know? She said, you left your credit card on the table. Thank you very much. I'm here again on Wednesday.
Oh, Jesus. By the way, 4:00 this morning, I ran into the lovely Phil Dave in the studio, looking immaculate in a fabulous three-piece suit. He always, everybody else looks like he just got out of bed, and he always looks magnificent. And he is leaving on Thursday to climb Mount Kilimanjaro for charity. Wow. He is the world's sweetest guy. We take the piss out of him mercilessly, as only you can do when you're very, very, very close friends. On his Facebook page, Phil Dave, even if he gave a couple of quid, it's all for mental. He's doing all for mental health. Personally, fantastic. I think he needs his head examined, because I think the only training he's done is actually wandering around Costco. But that's another thing. Mr. Neil Long, King of New Malden, we will see you on Wednesday with a fair wind. Until then, everybody, take care.
Good afternoon.